Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Every week, photographers from all over the country meet here to connect, inspire, and create. My guests share their images, photography tips, and stories of inspiration that help you improve your photography skills. You can find the schedule for upcoming presentations on my website, lindanickell.com. And if you can't join us live, subscribe to the Happiness Hour YouTube channel so that you don't miss a session. Tonight's guest is Rebecca Moran. Rebecca is a Texas-based photographer specializing in rodeo, farm and ranch, and Western lifestyles. Rebecca strives to photograph the authenticity and genuine spirit of her subjects. And in tonight's presentation, Rebecca will share her experiences and the views from her vast collection of rodeo photographs in her presentation, Behind the Chutes. If you're on Instagram, look for her at Rebecca Moran 01. That's Rebecca Moran 01. And connect with her through her website at RebeccaMoranPhotography.com. Welcome to the Happiness Hour, Rebecca.
Thank you, Linda. I am so excited to be here.
So excited. Not as excited as I am because I told you earlier. We'll just do some disclosure. A few people were in here before we got started, but there were people that came in after we got started. Rebecca and I found each other through Instagram. I don't know what came first, but all of a sudden she's like, or I might have said, hey, I'd love to shoot a rodeo. And she's like, hey, why don't you go with me sometime? And I tagged along with her. And it was a very small local rodeo just outside of Austin. And I'm like, I didn't know we can go back here. Can we really go back here? She's like, oh, yeah. And so I was in places that I don't think I should have been, but it was cool to have that view. And it was even more fun to kind of watch her work. And people aren't my thing. I've said that many times. I'm not a portrait photographer. I'm not really interested in street photography, but I don't know, the 30, 40 photos that I took from that evening, I came back, went, those are pretty cool. And it was fun to see and do something completely different out of my element. And I know I've told you this, but you were so gracious and I so appreciated it. And you and I've been able to keep in contact for the last few years. So it's super fun to have you here. And I love your work. You heard from a few people before we got started that they love your work. So with that, I'm going to stop talking so you can get started.
Okay. So now I'm not a tech person. So
okay. Yeah. Well, before you get started, did I kind of glossed over your intro. What did I miss? You're going to cover that in your presentation?
I'm going to cover that in my presentation. Yes.
Okay. All right. So there you go.
Okay. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Oklahoma, Southwest Oklahoma, on a cattle ranch, wheat and cotton farm. And as you can see in this photo, we were designated, actually, this photo, it's a couple of years ago, several years ago, but we were designated as a centennial farm. And that means that the farm has to be within the same working family, for 100 years. And we've well surpassed that, 5th generation now. So I'm very proud of that, very proud of my heritage and my roots. And I think a lot of that spins over into the rodeo. I grew up around horses and cattle. Both of my parents rodeoed. My dad was a bareback rider. My mom was a barrel racer. This was all pre-kids, so I didn't actually get to see them do this, but it's certainly has always been a soft spot for me. Just the people, the animals. I know what it takes to do that sport. I know what they go through. I know the sacrifices, the commitment, the grit. It's just to me just a great, I mean, a great way to live, great way of life. And so these are just a few. That's my great grandfather's old plow that was pulled by oxen. There's a snow picture of cattle, really almost literally in our backyard. Then that's the same plow looking through wheat, and then of course a wheat bale in the sunrise. And so I got started in rodeo really professionally shooting 2017. And I went with my just 30 Nikon 3300 kit lenses, really didn't have any idea what I was doing. Just thought this is going to be fun. I got some cool shots, and it kind of just evolved from there. And I think with starting out in rodeo, it was like, oh, I got to get an action shot. Oh, I got to get somebody on a bull, or I got to get somebody bucking off. And yes, those were great. And I have some very amazing action shots I'm very proud of. But the picture that's on the screen right now, this is where my heart and soul lies. This is something that I could talk about, and it brings tears to my eyes. I mean, the passion that I feel and the love I feel for this, it's really almost indescribable to me. And my hope is that that is what comes through in my pictures, that you're actually able to see what this feels like, what these animals, are going through, what the riders go through. This is probably one of my favorite shots. I'm a horse person. I ride horses. My husband and I have horses. We work with cattle. But if you're a horse person, you can look at this horse and you can see alert, very alert, not scared, not a big eye, but very alert, very much an anticipatory feeling. You can tell that this horse is wondering what's coming up, not really, scared, but really he's got his ear on me. The other ear is on the rider. And then the half picture of the rider preparing, that was a very solemn moment. You wouldn't think behind the chutes you wouldn't describe that as being quiet. But it can be very quiet. This is another one with the horse. It's just that anticipation and preparation. It's just, for me, it is a very chaotic place to be, but for me, it's very quiet. It's very still. It's very humbling. The most gracious men and women I have ever been around I have been around in the sport of rodeo. There will be these guys that, are walking around and they're trying to, get on a bull and stretching. And I'm, basically right at their feet trying to get these pictures. And they're like, oh, no, ma'am, I'm sorry. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're about to get on a bull. I'm the one who's, sorry. But it just kind of started from the very first time I was able to be back there. And I thought, this is my love. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to show the world what it feels and looks like. And you get to run across fun things like this. Like Linda had said earlier, this was one of her favorite shots because she'd never seen a glittery horse butt before. And it is, there's so much that goes on. I've had a lot of people ask me on this particular question, that's a studio shot. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's just a very cropped in shot. And actually the guy was sitting on a horse in a chute about ready to ride. But there's something about that. The folds of that leather is worn and used. And to me, it just tells that story. It's, that to me, that speaks of what that cowboy may have been through, what he's thinking about. This isn't his first rodeo, so to speak. Queen's Court, they were always, crowning rodeo queens. I loved this picture. It was, I just happened to look around and I saw all these girls standing up waiting to walk out. And I thought, oh, that's a great story. They're kind of nervous. And, this was in Stonewall, Texas, which is, if you don't know Stonewall, it is literally just a little spot in the road. They're one of the greatest rodeos. They're again, just kind of finding that, I don't know, turn around and see these guys. And I'm like, to me, there's a lot of emotion there. It's, what are they talking about? Are they talking about, their team ropers? Are they talking about their strategy? Are they talking about, did they do well or not do well? Are they going to make enough money to make it to the next one? A lot of these small town rodeos, the people that participate in them truly do just make enough money to make it to the next one. Every now and then you will get some famous rodeo participants. I have been blessed to photograph several participants that are NFR winners and qualifiers that they need to get points or whatever, they will come to a smaller rodeo. But most of them are just people that just want to put gas in the car to make it to the next one. There's kind of a cropped in version there. It's just, the animals. I loved this photo. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh, that bar across that horse's eye. But then I was like, no, that reflection on him is, he's in a pen, he's pinned, he's waiting, he's anticipating. And after really looking at it and thinking about it, I was actually very pleased with the way it came out. This is another little shot, just, what you might see, rodeo. This was just, Dad, and I believe this was a little boy, right, Linda? I think we argued about it at that time.
We did.
We did, yeah. Even though it's pink ribbon, it's still a little boy. There again, there's just so much that goes on that's just has such storytelling values. And then in shots like this, I love these women. These are the Lone Star Cowgirls. They do a lot of grand entries in the smaller rodeos. They actually did do a grand entry, I believe, in the San Antonio rodeo this year. They always do the parade. So they did the Houston rodeo parade, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and they are just the greatest group of women. And this was right before the start of the Stonewall rodeo. And I wanted to show you this picture, and I've got several more examples of this. So this picture, I think, is a great picture. I love the light in this picture, but this next picture, I zeroed in on just the two front horses, because to me, there's more of a story there. I'm a big believer in the crop. In fact, I've had somebody even say, do you ever shoot full-size images? And I'm like, I love the crop. The more you can, to me, get in close, the more that story is. And then there is it cropped even more. And that just to me, there's just so much more emotion in that. Even, her boot, you just get closer to the animal. There's more feel to it. This is this is a little behind the scenes, behind the chutes. They're getting ready. Cowboys getting set. Very tense moment during this. Everybody is very tense. The animal may not be acting, the way it should. These are very tense moments, but perfect places to capture that emotion. And this next picture, I do have to say, the pickup men of the rodeo are my absolute favorite. The job that they provide and their horses, they are literally an insurance for the Cowboys. They are, to me, you have to be better than any cowboy that is participating, because they will get themselves into some pretty tight situations, and to watch them move and their horses move, to me, it's just beauty. It's beauty and motion, and they can pick those cowboys up on a dime off those bucking horses, and it's just pretty amazing. And that's a cropped in shot of a another one. And then okay, so this one we're going to bring in Linda again. She had a lot of fun photographing. We call him the blue plaid boy, so I'm going to rat her out now.
Don't do it, Rebecca, please don't do
it. But
right, ladies, pay attention. All right, here we go.
So in this picture, the hands, I'm really drawn to hands. There again, they tell a story. You know, he's rubbing his saddle, he's roughing it out. He is a bronc rider, roughing out his saddle. That's extra grip in your saddle. My husband rides in a slick out saddle, and I do not know how he stays in. I ride in a rough out because it grips you and holds you in. So this is what he's doing. He's, you know, getting ready for his ride and kind of just roughing out his saddle. And there he is again. But this picture, you know, you might look at this picture and think, well, if I were to see this, or if I turned around and saw this, would I think, oh, I should take a picture of this? Or would I think, oh, well, he's, you know, you just kind of think in your mind what he's doing. I like this picture because to me, there again, the story it tells. I like that you don't see his face. I think there's some mystery there that kind of, you know, adds to it. He obviously loved the bandage. You know, what they do is they'll sit on their saddles like this before a ride, and they actually stimulate riding a bronc while they're kind of setting and stretching out. So they'll simulate that with their saddle. But that's just, to me, that was a quiet moment he was having. And I thought it just really, I love the story it told in that. And then here he is again. We have a lot of him. Thank you, Linda. But here, there again, his hands, he's about to get on this bronc. I kind of love the way the wind is in the, you know, the mane. It just kind of, you know, and his hand really close to the animal. I think that kind of grabs you, kind of tells you a story. There again, okay, so you're cropped in. Love that story. It's closer in. You kind of have more of a feeling about what he's ready to do. That's the back cinch that he's holding, and that actually goes on the flank of the horse. They don't do anything that hurts their horse or harms the horse. It's just on there tight, and they don't like it, and they're going to buck, and they're bred to buck. This isn't something that somebody's taken a horse and you know, decided that they're going to turn this, you know, animal into a bucking bronc. There are some amazing stock contractors who spend a lot of time and a lot of money breeding very specific animals for the sport of rodeo, and they probably eat and sleep better than you and I do. And there's another close up. Loved this one. I love the way the sunlight was coming in. It was kind of bouncing on his hand off onto his chaps. Really kind of caught the moment there. Love that. Then a little black and white there again. This cowboy's getting ready, kind of going through his motions. They spend some quiet time preparing when they're doing this. A lot of times they're roughhousing and, just having a good time behind the chutes, but they take this very seriously right before they get on their ride. And that was this quiet time there. I like this one, shows a little bit of the gear. You've got the helmet, the worn rope, the chaps, that helmet's been worn a few times. There's definitely a story there, capturing, the warm up of the guy and the cowboy in the background. More close up, another black and white. I love black and white. I will use black and white, not a lot. But I do like to use it. I think there are certain pictures like this one, it calls for it. I just think that it just, I don't know, there's just something like the mysteriousness of it. But I will do some black and whites. There's another great shot, Love the Sunshine. I would say when I'm mostly looking, things are happening so fast. It's hard at first when you're first doing this to take it all in, because you want to capture it all. And there's so many great things, that you're going, oh, he's doing this or he's doing that. And I've really learned to hone in on light, because the most of the rodeos, or the rodeos that I have been here in Texas, they start in the evening because it's so hot. So the evening light is amazing and creates some just amazing elements and emotions to the sport. It kind of brings a softness, if you will, to a sport that is not soft. It's very rugged. And so I like the light here. And there again, my hands, I have a thing for the hands, but they just, he's putting powder on one of the back cinches, one of the flanks, and he will get that all set up and ready for his horse. There's same cowboy. The bandage on the arm obviously caught me. It's like, oh, that's a story. He's got some stories to tell. And the powder on his hands, the way the light catches it, really loved that photo. And then this guy, bless his heart, this guy has had a hard time, I think, but this to me, this speaks volumes. If you look at this photo, it sums up so much emotion. It sums up so much of what they do. There'll be cowboys that, if they are in two different events, they may break a rib in one and get back on and ride something else. They're crazy, but it's the love of the sport. They know nothing else except what they're doing and the love of that sport. And they love it wholeheartedly, like anybody in any kind of sport or career that I actually cannot say that I've been around. My daughter was a competitive swimmer for a while. And obviously, yes, there's people that, love their careers as swimmers. But these guys and women, they're on a different level. And I almost think you would have to be to put your body through that. It's a love affair they have with the sport. And this photo I love, and we're going to crop in there again, right on his bandage. This hand could have been broken, who knows how many times. But it's just, that's a story. I mean, he's got a definite story to tell. You can tell the inside of his chaps are worn off from where he's ridden the horse so many times. The leather, these chaps were suede. And so he's worn off completely, the suede on the inside of the chaps. Gear, all the gear, they always hanging up, they're everywhere, anywhere they can find it. They have to place their gear. I love gear shots. I love that somebody's own personal thing. It's his gloves, that's his vest, his chaps. That's a very personal shot. There again, there's gear, lots of gear, always lots of gear. And I liked this shot. Very simple shot. Love the light on this. But these are all, these are for the bulls, and these are all just where they put these kind of like harnesses around the bull, but this is more kind of upper body. And so I just thought, that's a behind the scenes. That's a behind the scenes shot. That's what it looks like when there's nobody standing around. but everybody's anticipating for, the rodeo to begin. Always love the flag. This is a very emotional part of any rodeo, is the national anthem and prayer. Prayer is a big deal with rodeo and rodeo men and women. There's always a time for prayer, very solemn, very humbling event. And they are always very observant in prayer, and very respectful. And then there again, just, you can tell by looking at this hat, there again, a story. I'm drawn to whatever I think would tell a story. That hat has seen some days. That's a story. That cowboy, when he puts that hat on, he's not going to go and have it re-steamed or have it reset or clean it. That's his badge of honor. That is a badge of courage. That's his badge of honor. It will remain that way. There again, this picture, the sunlight couldn't be more perfect, the way it's coming through his hat. He's leaning over a horse, bareback rider. To me, just the way his shoulders are sitting, he's not really nervous per se, but there's anticipation in that, in the way he's sitting there, the way his shoulders are kind of up, the arm is outstretched straight. He's contemplating about what he's about to do, what he's going to get on, and what he's going to have to accomplish. And then this final shot, I love this shot. That actually is a pickup man in the back, and the horse, the eyes. I love the way this horse is looking. He's got the ear towards the pickup man. He knows he's got the rope, so he senses that, he's like, okay, something's about to happen, but what is this lady doing with this thing in my face? So he's very aware of everything that's going on around them. So, and that's my last one.
Not done. You're not done.
I'm done.
Okay. You can take your presentation down. First of all, I think you gypped us a little bit out of plaid. You just did. He's my favorite cowboy. And, to be honest, I never saw his face, but wherever he went, those chaps went with him. And it's, for me, they're so ornate and decorative, but they're working. That's their uniform. That's what they're going to, get tossed around in, but they're so intricate, and it's almost like their signature, because
it definitely is.
I could recognize, and I don't, we only went to that one rodeo together, but I could recognize the cowboys based on their chaps. I never saw their faces. You didn't have to. You just knew by their outfits.
Right.
So gosh, okay. Oh yeah. So this is a beautiful question. The Zoom user wants to know, where are the clowns? Yeah, because you were focused on that. I got the clown.
That's right. Linda has the clown shots.
Okay.
Actually, it is funny that I did not adding. I do have several of Leon Coffee, some really great shots, and I struggled with what shots to show, because I had like 40,000 pictures probably. And I was like, well, if they could stay for a couple of hours, I could go through a lot more.
No, I think that's what's the beauty. I mean, I was kind of with you, next to you, sometimes behind you a lot of times. I'm like, I don't think we're supposed to go in here, Rebecca, but she's going, I'm going. But I think that it goes back to less is more. And each photo that you showed, there was a story to it. And you have a story for each one of those. And it's not just carelessly clicking away. that's what I was doing, because it's all, brain candy for me. It's like, I haven't seen this, I haven't seen that. You're all over the place because you do it and you're doing it professionally. You take your time and you pick your subjects carefully. And that's just another way of extracting, the story that you want to represent in with your pixels. So this was a wonderful presentation, and I am so excited that you did this okay, she did it for me. I'll just be honest. um, okay, so let me see if there's any questions here. There's some nice comments in here. Oh yeah, Donna. I agree with Susan. You left us wanting more, because Susan Hanson says, I wanted more. These were great.
Oh, thank you.
Jason Deckman wants to know, do you notice that the horse relaxes when you drop the camera and they can see your face? Do you know, how close are you to that? So you're shooting right now with like the 70 to 200, right? So you've got a little bit of distance.
A little bit, but I have found I can get pretty close with that lens. If I focus it first, with that lens, then you can kind of turn in and zoom in. I'm not with the horses, like with the cowboys that are truly like behind the chute standing there. I'm obviously not up there with them, but I'm on the ground, not too far back. But to answer the question, yes and no. Depending on the moment that I take the picture. If it's right before or the cowboy is on that horse, no, that cowboy could care, or that horse could care less what I'm doing. That's not where its priority is. Now, there's a lot of times when I will go and do the stock contractor shots. And so I will go out to the pens where they keep the bulls and the horses and everything. And it's so funny. I have a lot of pictures of bulls, and they'll come right up to you. Now, I don't tangle with them. I don't, go, oh, come here, let me pet you, but they're a lot calmer, as you might imagine, out there than they are in the arena, so to speak.
Okay. We mentioned his name. I want you to tell people who Leon Coffey is.
So Leon Coffey is a legend when it comes to rodeo clowns. I don't know how long he's been doing it, decades. And just everybody loves Leon. I don't really know even how I can put it into words to describe him. He's just this joyous man that he loves what he does. And he just brings the love of the sport to every rodeo he goes to, and is so engaging. And I think has done more for the sport than, people than in the PRCA, like executive positions. I think because he's just so grounded and he's just so true to who he is and what he loves to do. If you don't know Leon, you should Google it. Really, it's Leon Coffey, just in Coffee, like it sounds.
Yeah. I can tell you that I saw him, the first time I saw him was in the 1980, probably 1984, 83 or 84. So he's got, someone put in the chat 30 years. I think he's got more than 30 years in it, but there is no other way to say it. He is a legend. And so, you'd mentioned him earlier, so I wanted someone to go, well, who are they talking about? So I wanted you to acknowledge that. All right, Rebecca, I got nothing else. You got nothing else. I mean, this was beautiful.
Thank you.
I love your stories, and I love, you're one of the people that when you caption your photos, I kind of smile after I read them. And sometimes it's just 2 or 3 words, and sometimes it's a whole little story. And your writing is as beautiful as your photography. And you bring so much respect to the sport. You're not riding the horse, but you're behind it and you're telling these stories of these cowboys, and not just the cowboys. We've got, women that participate in the sports, and there's, I didn't know what a pickup man was until I met you. And now those are the people I watch when I'm at a rodeo, because they are so under acknowledged, I think. And you brought that to me. So thank you for sharing. This is so, I know this is just you. This is all your stuff. This is what you live and breathe for. So I'm super excited to add this to the Happiness Hour collection of presentations.
Thank you.
All right, you guys can connect with Rebecca through her website, RebeccaMoranPhotography.com, and on Instagram, you can follow her at Rebecca Moran01. Next week, landscape photographer Beth Mancuso will be here to talk about post-processing in her session, editing landscapes with Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful, and I hope that we see you again soon.